Recording. Good evening, everyone. Really glad to see the attendance here. Great variety of people, and thank you for being here. I'm Tara. I'm with the Tara Lehman. I am with the Portugal Cove St. Philip's Chamber of Commerce, and the goal here this evening is to introduce you to our Arts, Wellness, and Heritage Committee, and just tell you a little bit about the project that we are about to embark on. We have a great committee to help explain that to you, and that's going to include a slideshow presentation that I'm going to go through momentarily. And a couple more people coming in there. This project, I'm so happy to say, has been so volunteer driven. I would like to thank everyone who's been a part of it. I am really pleased to see that. You're going to hear who these people are throughout this presentation. The document that we're going to go through, and the document is also available on our website. On the event page where you may have RSVP'd, there is a button there that takes you to the full project plan proposal that we've made. And there's also a live web page on our website that has it, that'll stay available after this evening. And so in the document I'm going to go through this evening, we do show who our committee is comprised of. And the people who have been really involved that all of us want to thank, that you won't see listed on that document this evening, is they've been absolutely instrumental, is Joanne Jacobs, Michelle Jones, Sheila Lukens Roberts, Visela Brakalova, Dana Malone, and many other people that have been contributing and just been real supporters, some concerned citizens in the town that want to help make this project a success. So again, the overview of tonight, I've got a few more people coming in there now, is going to be me going through the slideshow presentation, which is a summary of our full report. And there's going to be an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. So any questions you have, we're just going to ask you to hold them until the very end. And yeah, that's going to be the very brief lay down. I'm going to put my phone on mute here. So that's going to be the general overview of this, the format of the meeting. When we get to the question and answer period, and I will repeat this later on as well, what we'd like to do for the sake of time is anyone who would like to ask a question, we will provide everyone with 2 minutes to ask that question, just to respect everyone's time, try to keep everything concise. And then hopefully what we would also ask is that if a question you have has already been very clearly answered, we'd like to just then move on to a separate question so that we can ensure we have time to get through everyone's questions. And I'm sure everyone can appreciate that. So I think that takes care of some of the housekeeping rules there. And if you all, if you have a question and you don't want to, raise your hand and actually voice it, the chat room system, if you're all used to Zoom, on the bottom, there's a little chat button. You can type your question in the remarks there, and I can answer your question from there if that's something you are more comfortable with. And so before we carry on into this presentation that I'm happy to be doing here for you this evening, I'd like to introduce one of our fantastic volunteers for this project, and that is Ms. Erin Gallant.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here this evening, and I'd like to bring some greetings and a land acknowledgement. My name is Erin Gallant, and I am a Mi'kmaq woman from the Halibu Band in Corner Brook, and I'm so happy to be able to be here to speak. I want to respectfully acknowledge the territory in which we gather today, which is the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk, and the island of Newfoundland as the ancestral homelands of the Mi'kmaq and the Beothuk. And we would also like to recognize the Inuit of Nunatsiavut and Nunatukavut, and the Innu of Natassian, and their ancestors as the original people of Labrador. We strive for respectful relationships with all the people of our province and our country as we search for collective healing. And healing really is what brings us here this evening. I want to first acknowledge if there's any survivors of the abuse that's happened at the Catholic Church here this evening. We are grateful and honor you for being here tonight. This project didn't come lightly. This isn't just about a building. This is about people and survivors and trying to right a wrong. And we know that, there's legal processes that have happened to try to do that already. We want to make sure that tonight's discussion is a respectful, safe place for people to share while we share with you what we are planning to do. We've done our due diligence work. We've spoken with survivors and representatives of survivors and families. And the abuse that happened doesn't just end with the survivors who it happened to. It is multi-generational, and it continues to affect us. It's not just the people that were affected, it hurt our whole community and our whole province. So we want to make sure that everybody is aware that as we went into this process, that we did this with a trauma-focused lens. That was one of my big things, was making sure that we stay respectful and are very conscientious of any language or symbols or imagery that is used in our proposal, that it's not triggering for any of the survivors. We want to create a place where we can have people come to heal, even if it's not from this particular abuse case. It might be from others. Everybody is on their healing journey, and there's no right or wrong way to heal. We hope to have survivor engagement if we are successful with the purchase of this building and consultation, and the repurposing of this building so that it can truly be a safe place where people can come gather to enjoy arts, wellness, and heritage. So thank you for having me speak at the beginning here, and I'll pass it back to Tara.
One second here, my backdrop is giving me a bit of an issue, sorry. Always something technical, isn't it? Okay. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay, not perfect. Not sure what happened there. If anyone here uses Zoom often enough, you know that sometimes there's little technical difficulties that happen. So just give me one moment. I'm going to pull up that slideshow I mentioned, and thank you, Erin, for that. You are an invaluable part of our team. And let me just pull this up. Can everyone see my screen there? Is that a yes?
Yes, it's up. Yep, you're good.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. And I just sent you a message there, Farrell, just in case. Oh, I should see if I can blow this up. There we go. Okay, so that's visible to everyone, nice and easy to read. Okay, so the executive summary of our report. Now, keep in mind the report, the program we've put together is longer than what you're about to see here. We just extracted it down to a few slides just to keep it a little bit easier to follow along, and again, respect your time. And so the executive summary is that we are, as you probably sensed a little bit already, we're various community groups and interested parties that have come together to form an ad hoc committee with this exciting goal. The committee includes members of the PCSP Partners for the Arts Association, the PCSP Heritage Committee, and the Chamber of Commerce, which also has a wellness committee. So we've developed this proposal to work towards how to acquire and repurpose the Holy Rosary Catholic Church with its adjoining buildings and land. As this property, as many of you know, is currently open for the receipt of tenders for purchase, which has a closing date of June 2nd. So you can imagine that we are on a tight deadline here to get this proposal put together, and is one of the reasons we wanted to engage with you here this evening. Let's move on here now. So the vision is to envision a facility that's, as Erin said, it's open to diverse groups that will respect and acknowledge the historical significance of the site and much, much more. It's looking at the possible joint ventures with various people. And just give me 1 second here. And I'm sorry, my screen is, there we go, sorry. And the committee recognizes the opportunity to weave into the fabric of these initiatives a respectful process of repurposing our natural and man-made environment. The practice to reuse and repurpose has been a cornerstone of modern environmental thinking, and that's exactly what we are proposing to do. So once the bid has been successfully accepted, again on June 2nd, the committee proposes to form a new not-for-profit organization with charitable status, and then that will bring various stakeholders together to support and operate this new facility. So as you can see here, we welcome the support and any innovative ideas that will make this a sustainable venture for our community. So we feel the entire community has a real role to play here. And so the focus of the committee is to fulfill the identified need in our community for the following spaces and objectives. And those three pillars are heritage related, arts and culture related, and health, wellness, and mindfulness related. So those are really our three focuses here to speak about and repurpose this facility with. And in addition, and in conjunction with the previously stated objectives of our group, it is the intention of the AWH committee to establish a sanctuary, a safe sanctuary for all in accordance with our group's core values and principles. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of people that are being wonderful advocates for this project. And this slide here is just a representation of who these fabulous groups and people are. So we have the PCSP Chamber of Commerce, we have the Heritage Committee, Partners for the Arts, Health and Wellness Committee, the Advisory Committee on the Environment, and the general community. So again, thank you to all of them, because as I mentioned, this is very volunteer driven, and you know, we couldn't do it without so many people putting their shoulders into this. And so we have Mr. Michael Murray as our chairperson. We have the chamber representative is the president, Dr. Farrell Cowell, and you'll hear from him later. Our Heritage Committee representative is Mr. Michael Pretty. Partners for the Arts representative is Ms. Marlene Creets. The Health and Wellness Committee representative is who you just met, Ms. Erin Gallant. The Chamber's, the Finance Committee representative and project manager is Mr. Robert Stapleton. And then you have myself as the moderator here this evening and as project coordinator. A good few of us now that I'm reading it out. So from an arts perspective, let me take a breath here, maybe slow down so you can, if I'm going too fast, somebody raise their hand there. I tend to talk fast sometimes. So from an arts perspective, because again, this is one of our three pillars, there's no dedicated cultural center in the town. So there's no adequate facility in the town designated for cultural events and workshops. And that's something we feel really is something we can look towards changing. So we're envisioning an inclusive multi-use cultural center for the town of PCSP for people of all ages and all demographics. The former RC properties are in a centralized location for the community on a hill, as you know, overlooking the beautiful Conception Bay. And as a cultural center, it will continue to be a gathering place for the community. And you know, artists help us learn how to listen, to understand, see, and live within our places and societies. They contribute to the moment we're living in with its issues and challenges. And in this era of worldwide cultural homogenization, protecting our local culture is more important than ever. And we need to find some creative solutions to these seemingly impossible problems that humanity is facing. So we feel the site has great potential to become this creative hub, spearheading for innovative ideas. And this center will welcome people of all ages and all levels of artistic experience. It will provide a home for residents and visitors to create, appreciate, learn, collaborate, and exchange ideas while drawing on the beauty, history, culture, environment, and expertise in our town. We certainly have a wonderful community brimming with talented artists. And so then moving on to the heritage perspective, As many of you know, there's been records of European visitors in Portugal Cove from the 1500s, with settlement as we know it starting in the 1600s. So we're a community rich in history and heritage. This building has withstood 107 years despite weather and fire. This building and the surrounding lands are key institutions in the development and prosperity of our community. They would be ideal in a new role to help preserve our community's heritage and keep its previous role in developing a more prosperous community becoming an educational focus of that history and heritage. So the PCSP Heritage Committee sees this as a multi-use site, just as the artists do, a place to properly store and display many of the artifacts we have, that's very important, and a place to honor the veterans of our community with a display that's open to the public. The heritage of the place and the spirit of these community traditions can be continued for the betterment of all citizens in the town with the acquisition and repurposing of the site buildings. Stumble over my words a little. And then just to go back to what Aaron was saying from a wellness perspective, the Health and Wellness Committee of the PCSP Chamber supports the acquisition of this property for the various ways that the property and buildings can be used to assist in supporting the wellness of the community. We believe that through the adaptive reuse of these buildings, we can build a larger and renewed sense of community. And one such example would be mindfulness. Mindfulness supports many attitudes that contribute to a satisfied life. Being mindful makes it easier to savor the pleasures in life as they occur, helps you become fully engaged in activities, and creates a greater capacity to deal with these adverse events. So we need to provide a space and a safe space, key there, and opportunities for people to invest in themselves and their own physical and mental health. And none of this is a surprise to you. We all know that this is, very prevalent in society right now. And so the purchase of these buildings and repurposing them to serve all of the community will achieve that. And so we have quite the action plan put together. So this is a reflection of that. And we've certainly accomplished the first few that you see here. So we have formed the AWH community with participation by various community groups and individuals. I must say that this committee formed very organically and beautifully. And we've set the clear terms of reference and objectives that are supported by the Chamber bylaw requirements. And going back to those terms of reference, that's exactly what you're going to see on our website that I mentioned. So that was on the event page this evening. It's where you RSVP'd. There was a link there. But there's also on the Chamber website, there's an About tab. And in that drop-down menu, you're going to see an option to look at that full document there as well. And you can certainly reach out to me at any time for that as well. And so we've been also just moving on to number 3, reviewing tender documents and providing reports to the committee. We are now going to start engaging in professionals that are going to help us assess the property conditions and provide a report to assess the property value and provide an appraisal report. So assessing the tender conditions and providing legal support to us to do this, this phase successfully and properly. And then we're going to also engage with current facility users and obtain support for projects. We're going to engage the public and obtain support for the project. So this is not going to be the only public engagement session that we do leading up to June 2nd. We really, really want to engage with the public and hope to see you at all of those upcoming sessions as well. And engage the existing local community groups and committees for obtaining support for the project. We're going to prepare funding proposal documentation and execute the funding strategy. And then finally, we're going to compile documents and put the bid in by June 2nd. So that is an overview of our action plan. We are meeting weekly and very diligently putting this action plan into place because of our tight deadline, and we're doing pretty well with it. So project valuation, before I get into this slide, I'm going to introduce our chamber president, Dr. Farrell Cowell, and I'm going to get him to go over this slide with you a bit more. And then we'll get into the question and answer period, as I know you'll all have questions, and I may have flown through this a little quickly. It's a lot of information. So I will, I'll mute myself now, and I'm going to pass it over to Farrell.
Great. Hope everybody can hear me. And again, thank you very much. Again, I'm the current president of the PCSP Chamber of Commerce. And I really want to thank everybody for being here, for your public engagement. Again, we exist for you and an advocate for everyone in the community. So we're very excited to have everybody here and to, again, talk about this issue and to try to find a way to support the initiative. The concept here for market value truly is the fact that we are not going to be the sole bidders. We do not set the value. We do not set what it is that will be the final price that's paid for this property. We're in a position of trying to put together our best effort to keep this in the public space. It is our intention to try to do so that we can provide and give this space to the community, and trying to be sensitive to all parties involved in respects of being able to do this. But again, that doesn't mean that we are able to manipulate or shift the concepts of who would wish to bid for such a property and to afford such a price. So there is in no way anything malicious. We're trying to find our best opportunities to evaluate this property to the highest possible degree. And failing to do so will mean that we will lose the bid to a potential winner. So we want to make sure that people clearly understand that our initiative here is for best opportunities in community, looking for individuals across all walks of life within the community or outside of that community. Again, people that are invested in Newfoundland and Labrador to help us to support such an effort. Again, we are a non-for-profit, we're a volunteer group. We're looking to try to find a way to salvage the best opportunities in space within our community. We see great value for economic development, which is our core, derivative concept. And we believe that this is something that we want to make sure that we're expressing. So when we look to this idea, we understand there are private enterprises, and we are obviously a public initiative to try to find a way to keep this in the hands of being able to be used for community, being able to allow it to be that place of shelter, and for it to hit the pillars we believe to be important. We need more arts support in our communities. We need more places for wellness, for places that are safe and provide health and well-being for individuals within our community. We need more space for this. And I think that it's important when we look to the idea of arts, wellness, and heritage being also extremely important for the fact of knowing where we've come from, where we're going. And again, being sensitive to all parties and taking all input into consideration to make sure that this is the best venture and opportunity for everyone in the community. So we very much want to make sure that you understand this is not a simple process. There are many components and pieces to this, with respects to understanding, again, how we were going to be able to afford to not only obtain this property, but to use, the efforts of supporters to be able to run this in a very unique and special way. So we really much appreciate you coming in here and understanding that, again, we are a not-for-profit organization without coffers to immediately buy such a property. We're looking for the initiatives, contributions, continuously or otherwise, to make this a possibility and to try to find a way to use our pillars and volunteers and people within community to make this, again, very special space that we can protect, again, its heritage, to provide wellness and arts for the community. So again, thank you very much for everyone being here, and just want to make sure that we made that concept very clear, that this is coming from and run up by, again, ventures from donations and other means of funding acquisition. So Tara, I'll pass it back to you.
Wonderful, thank you. Great explanation. The last page of this presentation, I don't necessarily go through it all. I'm just putting it up there on the screen so that if anyone wants to have a glance at that, if they have any questions about it. But again, that is part of what's on our website. So you can, if you want to go back and look at that in more detail, you absolutely can.
Just wanted to be clear on that last image again, that what it is that we're making a proposal to obtain, and it is the Lot A portion. There is also a graveyard space that is present in that image that is not within acquisition for tender, and that is not our intention to venture after acquisition of that property.
Wonderful. Okay, so again, like I said, I know I went through that. That's a lot of information to take in at once, and I apologize if someone feels I went through it a little too quickly, but that's what this question and answer period is for now. So again, feel free to type your questions in the chat room. And what I will do now is does everyone know how to use the raise hand option? There's a little reactions button at the bottom there, or you can, again, type it in. But even if you don't know how to use it and you just want to raise your hand up, I will pull your name up as soon as I can and ask a question. And so the first person, and then, sorry, again, just to back up a step before we go into this, we would really like to make sure that, again, to keep this on track, that we're going to give you 2 minutes to ask your question. If, again, the question has been answered, please, we're going to move on and give everyone time to ask their own individual different questions. And if we have time to circle back around, we will. And so, yeah, so the 2 minutes if the question's been answered, and also to, of course, I like to think this goes without saying, but just to stay respectful, and, just we're here to chat, answer some questions. And this is not an opportunity to engage with any of the other people. We're here as a panel to answer your questions. It's not an opportunity to, ask other people in the session back and forth some questions. So I will now go to Mr. Fred Thompson has his hand raised. How can we help you, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, I was on mute on there.
There you go.
Whether this committee purchases this building or not is sort of irrelevant to me. If they get it, that's fine. Could be a great thing. I don't know. But the one thing that bothers me, number one, is I'm expecting that I have no idea about real estate really, but I'm sure we're talking hundreds of thousands to buy this. Where are you getting money like that in 6 weeks? And I see nothing in your proposal of how you're going to run this building. That building is an expensive building to run. The heating alone in that is going to be just unbelievable with the ceiling heights. And if you make it a heritage, you already cut probably 20% of your income is now gone because of heritage. And I do not want to see 5 cents of my tax money of this town going in this building to buy it or to run it. I'm dead against that. So where's the money coming from? That's my question.
Okay, good question, actually. And Farrell, if I could get you to, I'll get you to answer that question, please.
Yep, not a problem. As situated and laid out in the evaluation, we are looking for groups and individuals to participate in such funding. So may it be benefactors, may it be people to provide donations, maybe from the organizations themselves finding ways of being able to obtain coffers to be able to develop it. Same thing for how non-for-profits function. We're looking at finding ways of generating revenue to be able to support this piece. It is not our intention to be able to state that we would want the city to buy this property. That is not our intention. That is not within our proposal. It is for us to go out and find the best opportunity for us to find adequate funding to be able to support the functioning of a space that provides, again, arts, wellness, and heritage to the community. Those things are undervalued, most definitely in all communities across the province, and we need to focus on trying to find ways of propping that up. And I believe it's an opportunity to do so. Thank you very much for your question, Fred. Anybody else, or next question, hands up?
I don't actually see another hands up, but I don't believe that there would be anyone who has nothing to ask. There you go, Mr. Dick Whitaker. Thank you. How are you? Oh, trying to get you to unmute here.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, like Fred, I'm very concerned about the financial side of this. I've been involved with a lot of volunteer organizations in my lifetime, and a number of them have more or less eaten themselves up just trying to raise funds. It's cruel. And sometimes they have to take money from places that they'd rather not, and it compromises their ability to be, independent and speak up when they should do, and all this kind of stuff. So it's a really, really strong concern of mine on that. Having said that, there clearly is a need for some kind of a community center for some things in this area. And there are, and I think if there was possible to have a permanent tenant or permanent user, pays their own way, looks after the bulk of the thing financially, that would be perhaps the most viable thing. And I'm just going to put this on the table for people to think about. We have no facility for older people who have to, get away from their own home and so forth in this community. But if you could do this here, it's reasonably central. And there's money available, both provincially and so on, to help out with those sorts of things. We have the other things within the community support, like a pharmacy and that sort of thing. And there's a doctor there now, and so on. And there's a reasonable amount of stores and various things around. So it would be a nice place if it could be set up properly. Having said that, I'm
just a few seconds left there. Dick, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
I'll wrap up quickly. But to put it into shape for that is going to cost a pile of money. And there are all kinds of regulations you have to meet. So I'll just say that, will the committee consider that as a real viable option, because it's the obvious one?
Yeah, no, Dick, I really appreciate that. And like you said, we are very much in that effort. Again, just like any effort, we may not succeed. And our best efforts and intentions are to make attempts at succeeding and developing the best plans and taking input from yourself and others across the community to achieve such goals. We make no qualms on believing that we have all the answers and we know exactly what this place could turn into. We've developed a very quick concept of a committee to bring together our intentions and vision to try to bring again a place with these pillars in mind, and we believe that it's a worthy effort of our time to try to find a way to do this. So the answers to those questions will come, but we're definitely taking all considerations of not only the purchasing expense but also the running and financing and maintenance of it, because again, we understand even after purchasing such a space, it will need renovation to bring it to function and to be able to allow it for it to do that. So we are looking at all those perspectives, and like I said, we really do appreciate your input and welcome your input to our group to again continue to take advantage of everyone in the community and their perspectives for us to make this a potential success.
Thank you. I'm going to pass the floor over now to Brittany Churchill. Thank you, Brittany.
Hi. So I guess for anybody who knows me, I actually don't live in town anymore, but this is the town where I grew up, and most of my family still lives there. I actually live in Airport Heights, but that's as an aside. I'm, I know Aaron well. I know Spirit Force well. Michelle actually asked me to come as a supporter of this because I'm a big supporter of the arts and the Cove, and but earlier, because she also had asked me to ask my parents if they'd come, which they wouldn't, and I asked my father why, and he was so angry about the idea that the town might be in any way involved in purchasing this building, knowing what had gone on there, because I didn't personally know, and this is having grown up in the town, the history behind and the fact that the deep connection of that particular building to survivors of what happened, and the fact that there's likely people still living in the community. And I respect that Aaron has said that there's survivors that have been consulted, but I guess what I want to know is there a plan to respectfully include in the Heritage Center, especially in the sanctuary, an acknowledgement of what happened? When I think of other sites, historical sites where atrocities have happened, there's usually an acknowledgement of what happened, and it could be used to educate, say, the school children there, because I know about the history of the Catholic Church and the abuse in Mount Cashel. I did not know what went on at that church, and my dad said he wasn't personally involved. We're United and Anglican and stuff, but it was a small town. And Dad said there's people who walked out those doors and never went back. And he said, how would you feel if you were one of those young men or family of one of those young men, and all of a sudden your town was being involved in buying that center and making it into like a wellness building, and it's something that could be so triggering. And so I think there needs to be a big lens on that, because I just want to know how that's going to be incorporated, or if it will be incorporated.
So I can answer that.
Thank you. Yes,
I can
thank
answer
you.
that, Brittany,
Yeah.
and thank you for bringing that question forward. 100% it will be addressed. We hope that once we have the building purchased, that's the first step, that then we will build several committees and, you know, a committee of people, if survivors are willing to come forward to help guide us in how can we do this. I don't think this is happening in a lot of other places with regards to, you know, acknowledging things that happened in churches. I do know there's similar models with residential schools where they've actually been turned into friendship centers. And I totally get would people ever even come back? And they might not. And that's okay. Everybody's path of healing is different. But to know that you're not being left behind, nobody's being left behind in this, and the survivors are the number one thing in our mind. And let's remember that it's not the town that's purchasing this. This is the ad hoc committee of the Chamber of Commerce that is working on this. And that we do want to make sure that we consider all people that are going into this, and that there will be, very much like you said, in other places where horrific things have happened, it will be acknowledged. It is a piece of the history. We can't forget our history and where we've come from, but we do need to focus on the future and how we can make it a better place and a place of healing for our whole community. Like you said, it's a small community. I'm not even from Portugal Cove. I was a townie. I'm a transplant. Thank you for adopting me. And I'm affected by it. Just, you know, I feel this very strong connection to wanting to do something about this. And I'm not even from here. So I think I will make sure personally that that is taken care of, is the best I can tell you.
No, that
Thank
makes
you, Erin.
sense.
That's great. Is there anyone else that has a question? Please raise your. Oh, okay. Yes, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm S11E9K.
Oh, welcome.
For those that don't know, I'm Peter Gardner. I've been living in this area for about 25 years. It's a wonderful community to live in. That's why I live and we stay here. I think that any attempt that should be made to make a community center, and of course, anybody who knows me knows I'm coming from an arts background, is extremely important. It becomes the heart if it's done properly, but you have to have the buy-in from the entire community. You cannot have half the community looking at it in a strange way and thinking, oh, it's not for us. I see, which sometimes distresses me, the overload of expense and input that's given to sports, another hockey rink, a third ice shelf, and I don't hear what's going on with the arts, which I'm involved in. This province, I came to this province 50 years ago, has a remarkable history in the arts, absolutely remarkable. It's unmatched, I can tell you this, anywhere in the country. And we're going to lose it, and I'm watching it disappear very quickly under the threat of other things. Now, I'm also, you might know or not know, I'm a director of the Cupid's Legacy Center. Now, that small community managed to build a museum, a building, and function and run it, and it's still running it without a loss, because the people had the will to do it, and they wanted to do it. And that's what it takes. It's not easy. It's not hard. There is money out there. There's money going to things all over the place. You just have to know how to get it. And you have to write very, very good proposals. And to come back to the Cupid's one, which remarkably is not funded by everybody in the community, but it does have tremendous support from the federal and the provincial government, because they've managed to create a story which is about their community and why it should exist. I was particularly interested in what Erin Gallant had to say about we're well known, the Inuit and the other things. I think there's an opportunity for the building to be able to do all sorts of things, but you also have to think about it in a commercial sense. What are you going to do? What are you going to have there that attracts people to see it? Are you going to do something that's just things of activity? There's a lot of tourists through here. Tourists pay money. That's what we're now doing out in Cupid's. Cupid's is right off the beaten track. But that is the challenge. It's not impossible. And if we just always say it cannot be done, then nothing will get done. And it will always be the same as it always was. Nothing. And that's all I have to say. And I support this. So
I'd just like to make a comment. Thank you for that. You know, when we look at things like the First Light St. John's Native Friendship Center and how they've taken over Cochrane Street Church, they have 2 churches that they're operating out of and repurposing and using for performance centers and concerts and you know, wellness, all kinds of things. So there will definitely be the ideas. We haven't even delved into all the ideas that are possible, but we know that they're out there because we have a lot of excited people who all are experts in their own field. And we also have people with business sense and business minds. So we're making business cases. The main reason I joined the Chamber of Commerce was to learn more about business stuff. I've learned more in the last month about tendering processes and how that works. And so we have a lot of committed people that are going to make sure that this succeeds and you know, are not just on a whim thinking that we can take over something like this. We will be very cautious in how we do things, but also make sure that we go after every opportunity. And there's lots and lots of grants and things out there to help operate, especially if it becomes a heritage site.
can I make a follow-up? Do we know how much the bid has to be?
No, we
No.
don't know that there, but I can tell you that we are going to work as hard as we can in this short time frame to reach out to all the different philanthropists that we know and community people to raise as much money as we possibly can so that the survivors actually are getting the most out of this. We're not trying to go in and, you know, with the lowest bid and get it for as cheap as we can. We want to give the best bid that we possibly can.
Well, I'm prepared to help you with that.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I see Jen Dodds has her hand up. Oh, you just meant to do a thumbs up. Okay. All right. I can't tell. Okay. All right. Is anyone else? I have a comment in the comments section in the chat room from Robin Lacey that she said she'd love to ask about the heritage integrity of the property. And I don't know, Farrell, do you want to speak to that, or I'm not sure if one of no.
Yeah, well, but
Trying to, yeah.
Yeah, so it's for us to discover. We need to understand as much as what the property has to offer. Where are the values? Where are the liabilities as an asset? So we need to discover that. So again, when we're looking to make our evaluation for the space, we have to take that into consideration because we will be taking on an inherent risk in the fact of what it is we will need to be able to give a best evaluation for the property. However, that still doesn't stymie our wantonness to try to draw the largest potential bid for the space, but we do need to understand, again, what we're in for from the evaluation requiring a tender for being able to help to fix the space or to get the space to a functional stepping point. Because we are moving forward with the stages of trying to understand how to put this into place where we can generate revenue and opportunities for everyone that's involved in the community. So yes, that's something we have to discover that isn't currently known or been provided to people to incorporate in their bid. So everybody has to do their own independent evaluations of the property to discover where the liabilities and assets lie.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that myself and my husband are historic archaeologists and gravestone conservators, and there is a bunch of graves that are directly adjacent to the building. We live just down the hill from it. You can see the church out the window. And yeah, the graves that are directly beside it are over 100 years older than the building itself. So if there's any help that's needed assessing those as part of the bid, definitely we can help with that.
That's fabulous. Like you said, it's definitely something that I think should be brought up for what they're doing with the other site. And like you said, the history and the maintenance of that site, I think is critically important. I don't believe it's included in the lot bid, but I still think that it would be really fantastic for you to discover and search what are they doing with that property, and how will it be maintained, because its preservation is definitely important for those souls in the history that exist within that space. So thank you so much for taking that into consideration, and really would love to support you in any way that we can to connect you with those parties to help to give benefit to those families that have their families there, and the groups trying to maintain the heritage. Thank you so much.
And Robin, if you want to just drop me a private message in the chat room with your email address, I'll stay in touch with you, because you can do that privately if you know how to do that in the chat room. Okay, perfect. And I see George 10.5 iPad.
I'm sorry. I forgot. I didn't know that was going to come up. My name is George Miminis, and from my name, obviously you understand that I'm not originally from here. I come from Greece, but I've been in Newfoundland since '84. It was my choice to come here. I'm a professor at Memorial, and me and my wife, Ramona Deering, we are considering to move to Portugal Cove. We love the place, the community there. And when we heard that a community center probably will be built there, we said, yes, that's the place to go to. And the reason I was so much in favor of that was because we were so much in favor of that is because I'm very much involved with the arts as well. I have for 20 years now a Greek group, the Forgotten Bouzouki, which plays Greek music, and Newfoundlanders are in there. I'm the only Greek in the group, and so I have a passion for the arts, because I see how many musicians, how many artists we have, and unfortunately we don't have enough places for these people to be supported and play. And if Portugal Cove went for that, that would have been amazing. Now, of course, I'm aware of the problems that took place, the horrible things that took place years ago, because I was here when that came out. And I'm terribly sorry for these people. And I hope that somehow they heal throughout their lives and somehow feel better. And it's my view that if the church stays there as it is, a ghost to what happened in the past, it will always remind Portugal Cove people what happened in the past. Well, let's change the association. And I think it can be done in a beautiful way. Of course, all these survivors must be mentioned, and something, as somebody else said there. And my question to you is, after all these things, how can I support you?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so, well, there's many ways you can support us. I'm going to give the microphone back to Farrell.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, George. It's fantastic to hear. Again, whenever I think of amalgamation of cultures and music, it really does excite me. My mother was very musical and sang with her sisters. They were the Farrell sisters. And they were quite popular back in '59 singing. So music's been in my family. It really is to the core. My Aunt Mary Lou is a beautiful singer and went on to do a lot of singing, in Broadway and different things in the States. So I thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I think, yes, definitely reach out to us and find out how we can find a way to get involved to understand how you would see the shape of the arts being expressed from where you come from, and trying to understand your perspective, because the arts is such a broad perspective, and how we could be specific to being able to maximize what this space is. So we would love your input and love to share with you. So please review all of our documents and reach out to us, and we would love to hear a more detailed perspective about how you could help us to understand the arts from your perspective, your lens, and be able to try to make some sort of reality with that, because we're very excited for everyone who can bring again their culture and their heritage to our community. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're very welcome, and thanks for the answer. I will.
Thank you. I'm not sure that I'm seeing any other hands raised here, but at the same time, I don't believe that there are people not with any more questions.
I see that
There you go. Oh, Mark.
Whitaker's got his hand
Oh.
on the camera, so I would imagine that must be a hand up.
Okay. I see Mark just
Open.
waved here though, and he hasn't had a chance to ask anything yet. So Dick,
Okay,
I promise I will get back to you.
Dick, we'll get you next. Dick, thank you.
Hello, folks. I'll keep it short and sweet. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
So it seems that there's been quite a bit of work gone into this project by the people that are involved with it. No doubt it's very time consuming and sometimes costly to get things like this done. And back to what some other people said, like that building, although historic to the town and the things that happened to it, is a very outdated building. So just to bring that building to code will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. As for the sale of that property, like that's prime real estate once the for sale sign goes on it. There must have been some thought with your guys' thought process of what that's going to cost and where the dollar value is going to be. Has that been considered?
Again, we're still evaluating that process and again trying to find a way to understand again where the liabilities and the assets lie for that space. We understand very specifically that the acquisition of that space is not where the trail ends. Very much we have to make our goal being the acquisition of that property plus understanding from our evaluation what is the exact amount and figure that will get us to the point of understanding our goal.
Yeah,
so
like I think right now, I think the bill down there just to heat it is around $5,000 a month just in oil. You know, so the building is not only not up to code, it's not close to efficient. You know, like so donations and even if the town was to get involved, which I know not very many taxpayers of our town are going to want to hear that, but it's still going to be a very, very expensive venture. And don't take me wrong, our town needs some sort of place for this type of thing. There's no question about it. For everyone, not just the arts, for whatever people may need as a need in their community. You know, I know our community has a real bad problem with drugs and addictions. There's nothing here for that. You know, so yes, we need a space within our community that for all ages and all different types of issues and problems, and the good goes with the bad. But you know, like it's to the point, like you kind of got to size up your situation. Like, although some may not want to hear it, be quite honest, you're probably better off if that property can be purchased. You'd be better off to flatten that church right away. It'd be way more cost effective than to even consider a renovation on it.
But at the same time, we don't wish to make ourselves experts in that and wish to try to find the best parties to make sure that we're assessing it as appropriately as we can for the people abused and for all parties involved.
Right, but what I'm getting at is my background. I know Mr. Stapleton's background. People that are in that industry know right off the bat what it's going to take to even make that up to code. So, you know what I mean? Like you kind of.
I get that, but at the same time, do we get it up to code? Is it what is the end result of this? And like you said, I think we need to look at all variables. And as much as someone may be able to look across the room to make that stern evaluation, I think still we need to go through the process of trying to do it as appropriately as possible 100%. With all opportunities of how we will refit. If we can refit, and then from there, understanding that this is zero, and this is how expensive it's going to be to run it. Can we afford to do this? And we'll be able to make that evaluation with that information. But to me, I understand where you're coming from, but I at least myself, I don't understand that. And you know, stating that an internal committee member would state what they think the value is, that's not appropriate for me either. We need to have third parties involved to make sure that this is being looked at with the right lens and being able to give us information impartially and that we can make the best evaluation for the community on that behalf. So just feel that from my perspective, that's what's required. And I understand there are inputs internally, but I think we need external inputs to make sure we understand.
Oh, for sure. And I don't disagree, which leads to the last part of my question. At what cost? You know, like what's it going to cost? If it's going to be 10, 15, 20, 30, $40,000 to make that decision, that's enough money to tear down the church right off the bat. you know what I'm getting at? So you kind of got to draw the line there, and who's paying for it? Because I'm 40 years old, I have a young family, 2 children and a wife, and I can't afford to pay any extra taxes to the town.
Can I address this a little bit here, Farrell? Mark, Mark knows me, Fred knows me. and Mark referenced me in the conversation. The bottom line is it's very, very early days. I know the process. You know, I know the process that needs to be done. So it's very early days, and all the discussions we've had and all the talks I've had with people, we do not know right now what is the best path forward for the existing structures. We can make assumptions and based on that, but as everybody here, you and Fred, who have been involved in the construction industry, when you start making assumptions, you usually go to very bad places. So what we have proposed, and if you look through our step-by-step process, is structural assessment. And that will, without guesswork, tell us what we have there. At the end of the day, it may very well be a circumstance where the existing structure needs to be removed and it's more cost beneficial to put a new structure there. I've seen one of Fred's questions. Fred knows this stuff. Fred's not a neophyte in this stuff. Fred is quite right. It may very well be the solution, but we can't guess, we can't surmise, we can't assume. We got to use professionals to guide us, data and all of that. And all I'd ask everybody to understand is that we're a group of volunteers putting our shoulder to this thing to try and make it happen. And we're going to do it in a systematic, professional way. As simple as that. And to speak to, you know, none of my tax money and all that kind of stuff, Mark, you're very much involved in our herbiatory in our community. I know that. And you're a champion of volunteerism for that. There's $3 or $4 million just spent on that facility because of you guys' hard work. That's taxpayer money, right? Simple as that. And we'd be in an awful hard spot if we didn't have you guys chasing down those funds and holding the federal government accountable to make sure we get our share of it. And simply put, that is what we're about. We're going. I have spoken to the model of the Harbor Authority many times within our group. And that's my vision of it. You guys took on a public asset many years ago, and you put your volunteer time into it to run it, and you made a tremendous success of it. And you've given municipal, federal, and provincial coffers a place to spend their money in a good way. And you're champions of it. And that's all we want to do, is we want to be another group of champions just doing another thing.
No, and I commend you for that as well. It's not a question of that. It's just my big thing, as you know, is, you know, so long as the money that's invested is the best option. You know, like tonight is the night before a long weekend is not probably the greatest night in the world to have this meeting for the people of the public. You know what I mean? So the more input, the more people, the more it's an educational thing. You know what I'm saying? So I read a CBC article today, and the biggest thing I took out of it was they're going to be looking for 16 or 12 grand or whatever the number was from the town. So, you know, like it's got to be educated, and the money that's spent needs to be spent very efficiently, you know, in my perspective, because if it's not, like, I know, like yourself and whomever else comes from the construction industry here tonight, I know how fast that stuff can just get away, and it happens so very fast. 10,000 turns to 20, 20 turns to 40. So long as you guys have your ducks in a row and you're going to make that promise to the people of this town, I'm all for it. 100%. But
well, thank you. I think you know me. I think you think I got my ducks in a row. So
no, it's no question. I'm here tonight to just keep myself informed about the situation and what's on the
I appreciate it, guys. It's great to go back and forth on this piece, but I think we want to move on to make sure other people have time to put into this. But I think that we're all on the same page on that piece, and I really appreciate the input there.
Mr. Whitaker, we promised to go to you, and then I'm going to Daryl Harding. You did have your hand up. If you still wanted to ask a question, I'll come to you right after we hear from Dick Whitaker. I'm going to unmute himself again. You can do it. I know you can do it.
Oh,
there you go.
We've done enough Zoom meetings, Dick. I know you got this.
No, I wanted to go back to my earlier theme again. around the early 70s, myself and a bunch of other, my wife and a bunch of other parents went and saw the priest at the time and said, you know, the school is empty, nothing going on in there. What would you think about us setting up a nursery school there, or it was a daycare or whatever it was at that time? Early childhood education. I've got to get the right words here. And he agreed, and we fixed up the building ourselves, the parents, adequately for the time. And we ran it in there for at least 2 years. Memorial came along and made a video of it and set it up because it was the first one in the province. And this was a model. I made almost all the play equipment and so on. And apart from our own young fella hitting his finger with a hammer, driving in a nail, which we allowed, that sort of thing, there were no damages to anybody. And it was, and what I'm trying to get at is here's another opportunity for you know, there's a real shortage of daycare in the province, period, and in this area. And people are desperate to get into somewhere. So here's another opportunity if you can make it fit. In terms of the vision, I think this fits exactly as the other one does, because this is in the spirit of what the spirit of Christianity should be and was, and so on. These are needs of people, real needs. They help people. And I can tell you that every child that went through that daycare has been a good citizen and been a good kid ever since and done well. So here's another way that it can serve. And this is why I wanted to return to that. And again, it'll pay its own way. You know, there's still the cost, as has been mentioned before, Robert and others, about putting it all together. Yeah, that's not going to happen without somebody spending money. But there's also a pile of federal money coming down to help these sorts of things out. And, you know, so there's a real opportunity to put in backbone stuff. That doesn't mean you can't do a lot of the other things that people want to do. But I'm just trying to make it clear that there are some.
Did you have a question there? Your 2 minutes is up. So if you have a question to get in there quickly, please do.
My question is, will all these kinds of things be considered? Because none of these things run on air. And just the wages alone to keep it open for any of it open for even 6 days a week, you're looking at $80,000 a year or more.
Yeah, no, thanks, Dick. Really appreciate. Oh, sorry, you had.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we are going to explore every opportunity out there of ways to generate funds for this. Of course, without taking from any of our local businesses, but you know, there's a lot of space there. Not only is there a church, there's a house, there's, you know, there's so many different ways that we can use this facility to do a forest school, as I saw Julie post in the comments there. There's lots of different ideas. And when we get to that stage, once we have it acquired, then we'll be having even more public meetings trying to come up with ideas and see who's in the community who wants to come on board. Thank you for the question.
As I mentioned, I was going to pass it over to Daryl Harding because he did have his hand raised at one point, but if not, then what we'll do, we have room for one more question. So Daryl, if you don't have a question, then I'm going to just give the opportunity for one more question and we're going to wrap it up.
Daryl's got his hands up there, so.
Okay, there we go.
I'm doing my happy hands.
He's doing his dance, yeah.
Okay.
It's not a question, but I just want, first of all, throw a bouquet to everybody that's getting us to where we're to. And if you look at the 40 odd people present here tonight, we've already picked up some new interest and some wonderful resources when you look at George and Mr. Gardner, and I'm sure there's others out there that will help. So good on you. I like the fact that you're taking your time in the time constraints that you have of June the 2nd, but I see you have a structure there. What I'd like to give is it's not a question, it's just my experience about what can be offered there that we're not even considering right now. I took my stepdad was from Germany when he was alive, God bless his heart, and I took him down to the breakwater in Kitty Vitty on his first trip here from Germany. And he sat down and had his blanket on his lap, and he had his beach chair there, the old ribbon style beach chairs. He was reading a book, and we had a grand time. The youngsters were there throwing rocks in the water and everything. When he was leaving, he said, "Where do I pay?" because those type things that we take for granted, tourists just being able to smell the fresh air, read about the stories and give homage and prayer to the survivors, relax on a patio, please God, if there's one there, and have some Newfoundland fare. Down in Kitty Vitty, I took part in the formation of their Kitty Vitty committee. A cod jigger at that, excuse me, a squid jigger at that time was 79 cents. With Kitty Vitty Village on it, we were selling them for $9.99. So it shows the federal monies are there, the provincial monies are there, but like everything else, it's baby steps. I commend what you're doing here. Thank you, Mr. Gardner, for stepping forward. Really appreciate it. And George, you as well, and anybody else who's considering doing it. Because I think you do this, you do it right. And again, our community becomes leaders. Thanks.
Thank you, Daryl, very much. And I just want to point out, just before we close out here in the chat room, you're going to see a link that I put in there that takes you to the Chamber website, where you're going to find the extended version of the slideshow that I went through this evening, as well as our email address. So any further questions you'd like us to address, please do send them to us there, and we will get back to you immediately. So, and my name is Tara, so that's my contact information there, and I'm going to pass the floor back over once again to Farrell.
Great, guys. I really want to thank you again for all being here. I believe this is a very important initiative. And like I said, I believe it's something that our community direly needs. Again, I've been a member of the community for the past 8 years. I was born and raised in St. John's. And again, the funny similarities of the idea of the closeness of again, the diocese with respects to the fact that they were actually involved in the situation of actually baptizing my entire family. So we know very well the issues with that church, and our families has stories to tell about that issue, and it becomes a striking force for me for us to make positive change for community, positive change for these influences and situations. And we understand we're it's an uphill battle for us to achieve unresisted. And we know that there is still resistance, but we wish to gain champions as we go. We're truly trying to do this in the best heart and effort for our community. We hope to be able to maintain, again, your support with this effort, and knowing that there are parties that are sensitive to our efforts, and we want to make sure that you are aware that we're doing our best to be as sensitive to their situations as best we can in our own. And we very much want your input, need your input to not only make this a success, but for us to understand how to be doing this in the best way possible for our community. So again, thank you all very much for being involved with this. We really hope to get your input, and like I said, we wish to achieve in doing this for the right reasons, which we believe we're doing. But again, we're in a race with other horses, and we don't ourselves, keep that out of mind. That we do believe this is about again, reparation is needed for groups involved, while we're still trying to find a way to keep this into the public space for the purposes about which we see it to be important. So thank you all very much, and we very much thank you for being here.
And I'm just going to make one more comment that, as I said, where public engagement is very important to us, we will be holding multiple public engagement sessions. So that's going to be great. I'm so happy with the turnout we have here this evening, and word is just going to spread more and more. And so we're going to make sure we have those sessions to engage as many people as possible. So whether it be on Facebook, our website, just emails out to our members, we're going to spread word as far and wide as we can, so you're always up to date on when those next sessions are going to be. And I think that's, I don't know, Erin, if you wanted to give a closing statement as well, but I think we're good here.
Thank you, everybody, just for giving your time and having an open mind. And I think we'll see something very successful come out of this. And I really look forward to being part of this. This is totally out of my wheelhouse. There's no horses involved. So I'm excited to be doing something that's in a different mode. So thank you for coming, and have a great long weekend.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.